Canine Detection Collaborative, a detection dog training trio with Stacy Barnett.
Hi.
Robin Greubel.
Hey there.
And Crystal Wing.
What's up?
With humor and a big dose of theory, our trio talks practical training advice and features interviews with top trainers and scientists. It's Canine Detection Collaborative.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Canine Detection Collaborative podcast. I'm Robin Greubel, and I am here today with my lovely co-host, Crystal Wing.
Hello, friend.
And we're so excited because we have Joe Lawrence with us today. And if you are not familiar with Joe Lawrence is this fantastic author, gun dog hunter, gun dog trainer. Oh my gosh, I know. And has an academy online, has classes online, and she has a podcast. So we're going to put all of that stuff in the show notes for you.
And I'm a total fangirl.
Yeah, we're both fans,
insane.
Totally geeking out.
Insane.
Yes.
I'm so thankful you said that you would do it. So hi, Joe.
Hi.
Welcome.
I feel like I've got a lot to live up to now.
No, you just be you, and you are incredible.
Yes. So why don't you kind of give us what got you into gun dogs?
Well, I think that probably goes back to 2004 when we got our Weimaraner puppy, which you pronounce Weimaraner over there. And I knew what I'd been told, that they were very high energy, intelligent dogs, and they needed a job to do, and they needed some sort of dog sport. And so I went off and investigated lots of different dog sports. And I kind of had a little taster of like competitive obedience, a little taster of agility, a little taster of gun dog stuff. I don't think scent work really existed much back then, at least where I live. But like I did a little taste of everything. And out of all of that, I decided that the gun dog thing was the thing that appealed to me most, and that Slate seemed to be good at as far as the retrieving side of things went. And we could also find people around us to train with, which is also important when you're choosing a dog sport. There's no point choosing to do something if there's no one near you who offers it or provides it. So yeah, that was kind of how we got started, really, doing it with my own dog. Yeah.
That's a great start.
Yeah.
How did you get to the point of, having a podcast and offering classes and writing books and being so awesome?
I think that's just been a gradual evolution, really. I mean, I did a lot, like we live in Jersey at the moment, which I don't know, not New Jersey, but Jersey, old Jersey, Jersey Channel Islands, which is a small island off the coast of France. So we're actually much closer to France than we are to the UK. And soon we are going to be hopefully moving back to the UK. And we've been in Jersey about 10 years now, and I grew up here. So I was kind of returning home when we came back here. And I think there's not much opportunity to actually participate in gun dog stuff on Jersey. So I think part of my frustration about not being able to actually do it got channeled into, writing the book and making the online courses and just trying to be involved remotely, as it were. And so I think that's kind of how it's come about. So out of frustration about not actually being able to do it anymore, I just thought this is a productive way to use the time. Yeah.
I can so relate to that. There's a lot of stuff that I haven't been able to do because of dog injuries and not having the right dog for the thing. And so I found that I put more energy into like content creation. So I can totally relate to that. I'm hoping to get more back into the dog training side of it.
Yeah, me too. Yeah.
And just to get you your new place. That I keep following, your story and the evolution of trying to find the new place. And I'm like, come on.
Yeah. Well, we found a place now. This is news, actually. So we found a place. The survey on it was today. We put an offer in last week, I think. Was it the week before? I can't remember. And it was accepted. So that's
congratulations. Woohoo!
Yes.
Well, we have to wait and see what the survey says. That happened today. So they could just say it's about to fall down, don't buy it. And
that's always frustrating. Yeah.
Let's not celebrate yet.
We're not putting that in the universe. We're going to put the opposite in, and this is going to be the dream place for you to just have all the fun and do all the things. So that's going out there today. So Robin, can I ask the burning question that I've been wanting to ask?
Absolutely.
I think that some people would go, why are you interviewing a gun dog person? This is detection. That doesn't make any sense. And I think it makes total sense. I think that everybody should do gun dog training because of just the far reaching, all the behaviors that you teach. I mean, could you please just kind of elaborate on why that is such a great idea that we should all do this and everybody should take all of your classes because they need them?
Well, basic gun dog training is just good general dog training, really. And the reason for that is it's outside in a natural environment, in a sort of rural environment where you have all the distractions or environmental reinforcers, if you want to put it a different way, that every dog is exposed to. So, you've got smells and you've got game, you've got birds, you've got stuff happening out there. And if you can get your dog to sort of sit and not chase a running rabbit, for example, then you've got a dog that you can get to sit when a kid goes past on the skateboard. It's a really similar skill. So I think a well-trained gun dog is just a really well-trained dog, full stop, out there in the world. So obviously there is a point where if you want to be competitive and you want to, rack up scores and trials and tests and things, then, you may need to go a bit further beyond the basics. But
yeah,
as far as the basic skills go, it's just having a reliable recall away from everything that your dog might encounter in the environment, having a dog that will walk at heel for a period of time if you ask them to, off leash, because that's convenient to you. It's all kinds of skills that are really transferable for anyone who owns any breed of dog, actually. So I don't even need to have a gun dog to do gun dog training. We should probably rename it. I don't know what else it should be called. Outdoor dog training.
Yeah, that's it. I wish there was another name for the foundations of what you do so that people would understand that it's not just for gun dogs, because, oh my gosh, I do it for all of my pointy dogs. Like they'll never be, I wouldn't take them out to go do any sort of hunting stuff, but everything you have taught and shared, I use with all of my dogs, and I use it with all of the people that ask for help. So, I mean, you've made such huge ripples for me, and I just keep sharing things that I learned from you and the nuggets that I take away. So yeah, I can't recommend highly enough. Like you said, I mean, it's arousal, frustration, not chasing. And I love when you said, instead of calling it distractions, what'd you call them?
Environmental reinforcers.
Yes.
Oh, there you go.
Will you kind of elaborate on that?
So we think of these things in the environment like, I don't know, a crisp packet blowing by, or just a bird taking off or something as being a distraction. So the dog will momentarily stop doing whatever you've asked them to do because they're distracted by that thing. But if you think about it as being a reinforcer, a potential reinforcer instead for the dog, like the dog wants to go and get that thing or wants to go and check it out or wants to chase it, then it kind of reframes it in a different way. And when you see it in that way, particularly when you're doing gun dog training, you can then use it. So for example, I mean, you've got that when you've got a retrieve coming down, when you've got something falling from the sky and landing on the ground, the dog's going to a sit, and then on cue, you can release the dog to go get that retrieve, and that's going to function as a reinforcer for the sit, which the dog just did. So you've got this kind of chain of behaviors, which is going to get linked together, ultimately using environmental reinforcers, which is what traditional gun dog training really does as well, although I don't think they would conceive of it in that way, but that's kind of how it's functioning. So, yeah.
So it's really all pre-Mac. Do this and get that.
Yeah. Maybe all dog training to some degree.
Yeah, exactly. But and you said chains. For people that aren't familiar with that idea, could you kind of explain that a little more?
Well, the chain of behaviors is really different depending on the type of gun dog that you have, the sort of work that you're doing with your dog. So it will differ. Like, for example, you call them versatile dogs, I think, in North America, and we call them HPRs, which stands for hunt point retrievers. And basically, their chain is to hunt, to quarter, to point when they find the game. Here in the UK, to flush the game on cue, to sit and be steady when the game flushes, and then to retrieve on cue when they're sent to retrieve. So that's like a little chain of behaviors. And training the dog is about breaking up that chain. And how you break it up is really important, particularly if you want to train using force-free methods, because as we all know with chains, they can end up running themselves. And that's where you get a lack of steadiness, which looks like disobedience or something, or the dog just really wanting to get the game or retrieve or whatever it is that's fallen down. But you can also think about it as just a chain that's kind of auto running because the dog is anticipating the next behavior in the chain. And so it's about confounding that and messing with those expectations that the dog has in a productive way, so that when you put the chain together, the dog doesn't necessarily know exactly what's going to happen. So if that makes sense.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I might keep the dog sitting there for a while. I might walk up to the dog and cue another behavior like a down. I might ask the dog to walk at heel for a little while before I send them for the retrieve. So I'm just teaching them that when stuff falls from the sky, you're not necessarily going to go and get it. I might leave them there and walk out and pick it up myself. So you're just breaking up that chain. Yeah.
So you say chain, and sometimes I'm like, sounds like an out of control train.
Yeah.
But that's it. The whole concept of breaking up the chain of behavior so it doesn't become an out of control train.
Exactly. Yeah, you could put it like that. That's good. Yeah.
I was listening to your podcast, which is called Hold the Line.
One of my favorites. I'm a subscriber.
Me too. And today, well, the one that just recently came out, you were talking about releasing a class for T drills.
That's out, by the way. The class is out.
Yes, I know. I know. I was like, and if you go watch and listen right now, not watch, but listen right now, she has a coupon code, which we're not going to give you because you have to go listen to the podcast. So the nice, interesting thing about it was the fact that you were talking about T drills, and you have to have these prerequisite behaviors in order to effectively teach T drills. And so in your opinion, what are those foundational behaviors that gun dogs need to have to go do all of these other things that we want them to do?
Do you mean to go and do everything, or specifically to do the T drill?
Everything.
What? List all the behaviors which gun dogs are required to have.
Well, you don't even have to pick all of the behaviors, but if you could say, okay, these are the top 3 things that really excellent gun dogs have. What are those 3 things? Or 5? I'll let you have 5.
Well, it's really difficult. And again, it's going to differ a little bit depending on where you are, because what is highly prized amongst gun dogs differs a little bit depending on whether you're in North America or in Europe. But I would say it's not a behavior, maybe it's not behavior. It's a genetic trait, perhaps. The capacity for the dog to be calm when required, and then to switch on and be incredibly fast and stylish and sporty and drivey. And getting that combination is very tricky, and lots of dogs fall off the tightrope one side or the other. You can have lots of dogs which are calm, but they're also it's like watching paint dry. When you send them to go and do anything, they're just really slow, or they don't hunt properly, or that's falling off one side. Or you've got the dog which is great when you ask them to do something, they're super stylish and speedy, but they're just, getting them to walk at heel at your side is like, I don't know, trying to get a racehorse into the stocks something at the beginning. Or it's a bit like the dog, when you want them to sit and be steady, is just unable to contain themselves. They're just so excited and so highly aroused, they're not able to manage that. So it's about the dog having the capacity to do both of those things when required. And that's a difficult, challenging thing to achieve. And also, to what extent different bits of that are required depends on what type or subgroup of gun dog you have. For example, like HPRs are probably going to need to walk at heel less than retrievers are, at least in the UK. So that would be one thing. And then you just got all your basic, I think just a good response to basic cues, really, like a reliable recall that functions away from absolutely everything, pretty much. A sit or stop, which functions again around absolutely everything. These things, if you have those 2 things, then you've got so much. You've got a dog that you can trust to be off leash. They'll come back whenever you call them. If they put something up or there's something they could chase, you've got control of them. You can sit them. You've got such excellent things to be working with just with those behaviors. So those are probably the top 2 behaviors: the remote stop and the recall. After that, it gets into complicated things like blind retrieves and lining skills and handling and casting and hunting and quartering for HPRs and spaniels and all that sort of stuff.
It's interesting because I'm listening to you, I'm like, okay, so my working dogs need a decent heel because I'm walking in public. I need them to not pull me over. I need them to have a solid sit, whether it's a sit at odor or a sit there while I get stuff out of my car, or I do 500 other things. And then that recall. And then we also do, in the FEMA dog world, we also do an emergency stop, which could be considered a whistle sit. And it's interesting. We also do casting, sort of, which is baseball. It's a baseball diamond, and you have to send the dog in and cast using hand directions type of thing. It's much more formal, sort of.
Yeah, it's the same. It's very similar. Yeah.
Yeah. And so it's interesting when you start thinking about all of the transfers of those skills and you start talking about blind retrieves, and I'm using a traffic cone and I'm sending my dogs out to a traffic cone for blind retrieves at the moment. And we started with sit and stare at a cone, because we sit and stare at every, odor. We sit and stare at odor. So I was using the Scandinavian Working Dog Institute's progression plan they have radio directionals. So I was morphing over both worlds. It was kind of fun. And I went and bought electrical fence posts today for the hunting dog stuff.
Yeah, that's what we use instead of the cones.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, it's all really transferable. I mean, it's basically, the blind retrieves is basically sendaways. So it's a bit like, obedient sendaways are like a really short sendaway, as far as I understand. In the UK, there's something called working trials, which has a much longer sendaway, but it's a very similar thing. And they also cast the dog and have directions on it at the end once they've stopped the dog. But it's all very similar. It's all the same kind of stuff and transferable. So, yeah.
I think what makes it special for me, that I think everybody needs it, is the fact that it's not just in your living room or in the competition ring. It's in real world application. And I think that's where the real shift, the real jump comes in, that I want to send everybody to you.
Yeah.
Say, no, Joe has this figured out, because it's not just about, can you have sit down, stand, come, heel, your 6 basics. But can you do those everywhere? And that's what I think you are so genius about, is understanding distractions, but even more so is slicing it down. And that's what I am always so impressed by, and how you break down behaviors into the chains, into those little pieces. And so sorry, I'm just riffing on that, but that's what I love most about your training. It's so just eloquent. I love it.
Thank you. I think that really occurred to me really early on, that whole thing about gun dog training, like with my first Weimaraner slate. I remember, as part of checking out all of these different dog sports, that we went to watch a competition obedience show, and there was someone whose dog did beautifully and in the ring, and they were like super glued to their side and staring up at them and giving them beautiful eye contact and like responsive and perfectly like obedient dream dog. And then I saw this person in the car park, and their dog just ran off to the end of the car park because they somehow managed to get off the leash and ignored all the recalls, and it was eating some dead thing at the bottom of the car park, and the woman couldn't ask her to leave and drop the dead thing, and the dog was just eating it. I was like, well, here's me with my new dog. I think I'm gonna choose something practical that has like real life applications when I'm choosing my dog sport.
Yes. What you teach is so functional. It's just what we need. And it's how you look at things. Like what you said, we say distractions and you say environmental reinforcements. And I think it's a whole mental shift that you could give people. I am curious, what classes are you currently offering?
Well, I have lots of classes on my website, which you can sign up for anytime. So I can't actually know if I can list them all. There's like the reliable recall, there's heal, there's focus and attention. Those are like the 3 very popular sort of starter level courses. There is the whole blind retrieve chain of things is slowly coming together. So we've got blind retrieves, which is the send away part of blind retrieves. And then we've got 3-handed casting, which is, back, left, and right. And we've got the T drill, which is like where you go after 3-handed casting, and we've got remote stop as well. So I think, is that all of them? I think it's probably all of them so far.
So I'm out on your website, which by the way is forcefreegundog.com. It'll be in the show notes. And I'm thinking I'm buying the blind retrieve option just for fun. Because that's my big thing for like, when I get back from all of my travels for next 2 weeks. Well, by the time I get home, it'll be ready to go and I can start on those. Super excited.
How are your courses set up?
You can sign up anytime. I think they're 6 weeks long, most of them. Some of them are 5 weeks, some of them are 7 weeks. It depends on how long it takes to get through all the material that we need to teach. Yeah, you can enroll anytime and take as long as you want to do the course. There's no sort of deadline. And material is released each week. So you get an email each week telling you there's stuff coming out. But if you're not ready for it yet, you can just ignore that email and just do it when you're ready. And then
life happened.
Yeah. At the end of the course, you can keep going as long as you want as well. So there's no, like, you don't get shut out of the course or anything. You kind of got ongoing permanent access to it. So you can go do it with another dog in the future or yeah. So yeah.
And do you have options to get coaching from you as well?
I don't at the moment.
Okay.
I did have, and then there was some technical issue with it, so I took it off. But I should probably put it back up again. But not at the moment.
Okay. And then you mentioned this recall thing, that kind of is important to some people. And you have an amazing book about that as well. Can you talk a little bit about your writing process and what books you've written and kind of what's coming up?
Well, the book, as it were, is...
I like it, the book.
There was a copy of it right here. Look. Not that. Is anyone watching this or is this just audio? Because no one's going to see
this is audio.
the book. Okay,
yeah,
all right. Well, for people listening, I'm holding up a copy of the book. It's called Force-Free Gun Dog Training, The Fundamentals for Success. And you can get it from most Amazons. So any Amazon should have it. Wherever you live in the world, wherever your Amazon is, should have it. And there's also a workbook which goes with it, which is, I think, called The Workbook, imaginatively. And that kind of accompanies it.
Which is lovely.
Yeah, it's brilliant.
It's lovely.
My husband designed it, and we had a bit of a debate about how big to make the workbook, because we want it to be pocket sized. You can put it in your pocket when you go out to the field with your dog. But then it does mean that it's smaller. And so that was a kind of compromise. We had to have a bit of a debate about that. The next one might be larger. But anyway, so yeah, and I'm working on a sequel to Force-Free Gun Dog Training at the moment. So I keep saying it's coming in 6 months. It's coming in 6 months. I probably mean that I might actually begin to finish writing it in 6 months. But then after that, when we have to get the illustrations done, that will have to be designed. And so this is probably not coming out in 6 months. But yeah.
So here's the deal then. When it does come out, can we have you on again so then you can talk about it?
Yeah. Sure, yeah.
You like how I just sink you in right there? So I put you on the spot.
What's the hardest part about, okay, the first book is really awesome with all of the sequencing and everything that it goes through. What do you find the hardest part about writing a book?
I have written other books.
Right.
I was going to say, yeah.
It's not even this book, just writing in general.
Writing, oh, that's a big question. I've written some plays in the past. I was originally a playwright. I actually do quite a few things. So my life is split off into different fragments, and not many people in one area of my life know about the other areas. But yes, the hardest part of writing the Gun Dog book was probably... Well, the most boring part of writing the Gun Dog book actually is writing the descriptions of how to do things like, 1, sit your dog in this place, walk this blah, blah feet in front of your dog, throw this thing to here. That is the most boring part of it. And the most enjoyable part of it for me is when I'm just waffling off the top of my head, like I am right now, about, how to train various things or problems that happen, or and I'm just sort of talking in a creative way about a problem and how to approach it. That's much more interesting to me than some kind of recipe of how to train something. But I feel that people want the recipes of how to train things, so they have to be there too. But
Yes.
Yeah.
And you said other books. What other books?
You mean besides the Gun Dog books?
Yes.
Several plays. I was originally a playwright. That was something I did when I was quite young. Published and produced a playwright. You can probably find those as well. Nice.
And then what other Gun Dog books have you written?
Not any other Gun Dog books. So this is the first first Gun Dog book, and the workbook as well. And then the sequel, which I'm working on at the moment. Is that right? Yeah.
Yeah. So what possessed you from, because what possessed you? Because if you think about, okay, I'm out training my dog to go do this Gun Dog stuff, and all of a sudden you're like, hey, I want to write a book.
Yeah. You mean the Gun Dog book? Yeah.
Yeah. That's one of those things that, I've had lots of people tell me, oh my God, you should write a book. And I'm like, yeah, no.
Well, I think it was partly it was partly, as I said, being here in Jersey and not actually being able to do a lot of this stuff. I was quite frustrated by that and channeled it into writing about it rather than doing it.
Okay.
I think also I was teaching like my own small classes, gun dog training classes. Although the problem with Jersey is that people can't actually go on to do anything. So we don't have like any shoots here. So we don't have any trials or tests. So people didn't have an objective or a goal or reason to do the gun dog training. Well, they did really, because as we've just talked about, it's relevant to all kinds of life. But most people don't realize that or see that as a reason to do gun dog training. And so I think people were just not really following through. They would get to a certain point with it and they would let it drop because they couldn't see where they could take it after they'd done the basics kind of thing. But I was creating this kind of ever-growing kind of file of notes for people on various subjects to help them. And so when they would get to a certain point in their training journey, I would send them like, here's some notes about heel work, or here's some notes about the recall, here's some notes about fly and retrieve for the next part of your training journey. And then I realized that really, if I put all these together, I kind of had the outline of a book, really, if I just filled in the bits in between. And that's kind of how the book evolved, really.
Is your husband a writer too, then?
No, he's a lighting designer, which is how we met. He lit my first play.
Nice.
Back when I was 21. So no, but he's just a sort of genius when it comes to anything visual, being a lighting designer, and anything aesthetic. So he very easily taught himself how to use InDesign, which is the book design software. Was able to design it. So that's kind of, handy, really, I guess. He might have to, it's been so long now, he might have to reteach himself how to use it, or it's probably been updated and there's probably lots of new stuff to learn for the next book, if I should ever finish it.
Yeah, there's been a lot of updates. I think he'll love it. Because I'm a high school art teacher. And so I use a lot of those. Yeah, so I use those programs. So I'm like, oh yeah, he's going to like some of the new updates.
Okay, so you started with the Weimaraner in the American vernacular. And
right? The wine or whatever it is.
The wine, yeah.
The wines.
The wines. And so are you working pointers? Are you working spaniels? Are you working labs? Have worked all of the above? What are you working now? And everything in between.
Well, that's a long, complicated story. I don't know if it's a very interesting story, to be honest, but I can tell it to you. So, so our first dog, Slate, was excellent at retrieving. So she was super duper. She was super fast, super stylish. She would stop on the whistle. I could handle her left, right, back like a Labrador, like a retriever, even though she's a Weimaraner. And she did really well at working tests. So we won out of all the classes and working tests, but she sucked at hunting. So she was a showbred UK Weimaraner, and she just didn't have much drive or desire to hunt or range far enough to find anything. And probably if I'd known that I had that sort of dog at the very beginning, I might have been able to put a lot more emphasis on the hunting side of things and a lot more effort into achieving that. But I didn't know that. And I was starting out, and what everybody does when you're starting out is teach you how to get your dog to retrieve things and be focused on working tests in the UK, at least, where the hunting isn't quite so important as the retrieving. So there's only one hunting test and there's a lot more emphasis put on the retrieving. So with our next dog, I decided I wanted to improve on Slate, and I wanted to have a dog which could hunt better, basically. So that's where we got Gray, and Gray was a Slovakian roughhead pointer.
Can you say that again? A Slovakian
roughhead pointer.
Roughhead. Okay,
it's
I'll
not
look
many,
that up.
actually. Yeah, they're not very well-known breed. They're sort of developed in the 1950s in Slovakia, and by breeding together Weimaraners, Sesky Fusiks, German Wirehead pointers, and there's a little bit of sort of GSP sprinkled in there as well. They're
wow.
And they're quite recently developed as well, which I kind of like that as well, because the sort of, genetic, variability and stuff. And so they're not so inbred. And so we got Gray, because she was Gray, because they look like a Wirehead Weimaraner. They look like a Gray German Wirehead pointer, for example. Usually they can also be roan, which is like white and brown, but the kind of classic version of them, if you think about it, is Gray.
Okay.
And so Gray was called Gray, and Gray was just really goofy. I think she just was missing the module in her brain that taught her how to handle and take casts and do that side of things, which is understandable because it's not something that she's bred for. So in the UK, we have this really weird situation where HBRs are assessed and expected in assessments to be able to take casts, to be able to run out in a straight line, stop and go left and right and back and be able to be handled like retrievers. and they're not bred to do this in their countries of origin back on the continent. So they may or may not be able to do this because it's not something they've really been bred to do or assessed to be able to do back in the countries of origin. And Gray just couldn't really do it very well. And I think, again, retrospectively, it's always handy to know what sort of dog you've got. If you could reverse back to the beginning with a puppy and be like, oh, I know what sort of dog you're going to become. Let's train you this way from the beginning. But you can't do that really. Anyway, so with Gray, I put all the emphasis on retrieving, and I sort of decided we were not going to get into the hunting until we perfected the retrieving side of things. So we had her where Slate was, so she was really good at the retrieving side of things, but Gray just couldn't do it. And I'm really stubborn and persistent and determined. And I was like, no, we will not give up on this. You will be able to handle. And I should have just given up, and I should have just played to her strengths and emphasized her strengths and gone into the whole hunting side of things and just been like, right, maybe you're not going to be able to handle and take casts, but that's fine because most retrieves will be easy scenes that you would ever have in the field anyway. But I didn't do that. And by the time I gave up, Gray was like 5 or 6 years old. And I was, she was too old to be able to do anything with by that point. Then we moved to Jersey, where we can't really do a lot of the stuff. And that's when we got our Labrador, Moy, who's a working black lab. And yeah, Moy can do all the handling and casting and retrieving side of things. Moy's just a lovely dog. She's a super duper smart dog, like a lot of working Labradors are. And is this getting boring yet? Should I stop?
No, because I'm writing all kinds of questions. I'm like, yes,
keep going, because it's very interesting to hear the different types of breeds and all of the stuff that you're learning about while doing different types of breeds.
Right. So so with Moy, she was a super duper dog, and we actually had 2 litters from Moy, and we actually only had the first litter because we'd never bred a litter before, and I didn't want to breed a litter and keep a puppy from a litter at the same time because that felt like I don't know how I'm going to feel after I finish raising the litter and whether I'm going to be ready to raise a puppy or whether I'm going to need a year or 2 off to recover. So we had the litter. We didn't keep a puppy from that first litter, but it was a learning experience, and I knew we'd do a lot better with the next litter. So a couple of years later, we had another litter. And kept a puppy from that, who was called Fire. And Fire ended up having behavioral issues, which were very obvious from a young age, from like 12 weeks old. She was spooky and reactive. And this was despite the fact we raised her with puppy culture. We raised her with Avidog. We did everything with that litter that we were like optimal breeders with that litter. And still, I think it was a poor throw of the genetic dice, and the wrong things came together for Fire. So we decided Fire couldn't be a gun dog. And it was really difficult to just keep Fire under threshold where we lived because there are just people. It's difficult to go out anywhere and not see people. So if she went somewhere busy where there were people everywhere, she was fine. So if you went to the middle of town or somewhere, she'd be fine with people everywhere. But if you went to the middle of nowhere where there wasn't anyone and then a person appeared, the novelty, the sudden environmental contrast would cause her to react to a person or a dog or just, a thing. And where I live, it's really difficult to, you try to go out nowhere because that's where you want to train. You want to get away from everyone and have your own space and privacy to be able to do some training. And then when you go to that place, it's inevitable that one person or something they're going to see something. So it was really hard for us to own Fire and for her not to react. So we decided to rehome her, and we found a lovely agility home for her. She's doing really well in agility at the moment. So that's good. Happy ending for Fire. So then we decided, as we planned to move back to the UK, that we would go back to HBRs. And I think part of that was also, it was just too hard emotionally to rehome Fire and then get another Labrador. It just felt the same breed so soon. And that was just really emotionally difficult. And also, as a trainer, I've come across quite a few spooky Labradors in the UK. And I just didn't know, how can I avoid that again when I'm choosing a breeder? Because we did everything right here. So in terms of breeding a litter. So we decided to go back to HBRs, and we got our GSP, Ren, who then turned out to have really bad allergies and from about 7 months old. So she wouldn't eat any food for a long time. And I think part of the reason for that was allergies somehow. So she was on Cytopoint and immunotherapy, and now she's off the Cytopoint. She's fine just on immunotherapy, which is great. But, we decided that she wasn't going to be like the future for us either with these allergies, and she has some sort of weird behavioral quirks as well. She has a bit of sleep startle issues. If she's asleep and another dog touches her or person even touches her, she'll growl and startle. So so then when we got Roche, Weimaraner, who we imported from Belgium a couple of years ago, and that was exciting because we did that during COVID and lockdown, and we had to, yeah, I know.
You guys can't see my face. I'm like, oh my gosh.
I know. Well, actually, it's quite exciting. To be honest, we could only have done it because of COVID, because Adam wasn't working, I was available, we didn't have anything else to do, so why did we have to live where we usually live? Like, so basically it was one of those things that could only happen due to COVID, so it was quite exciting, really. And we took advantage of it. But yeah, Roche has got so much potential in the field, and she could go really, really far. So as long as I didn't mess it up. But she's also really easily aroused. She's quite highly aroused and pumped generally. And that's one of the things you have to work with her. So yeah, that's my definitive rundown of dogs.
And the cool thing is, hearing you talk about that, I'm thinking back to all of your podcast episodes, like your behavior trilogy, when you talk about a lot of this. And then when you talked about I like how you related the sleep startle with that spatial pressure. And so I'm just telling everybody, you need to listen to the podcast, because there's so many cool things that you're able to tie together of how one thing relates to another, and how to read our dogs better too, which that's going to relate to everything. So those are all things it's kind of cool listening to you talk about. I'm like, yeah, I know that episode too.
Yeah, the podcast is my life. Well, my life with dogs anyway, but yeah.
Yeah, it's so interesting. I was thinking about, it was, trying to think back, it was Gray, and you talked about that you're very stubborn and persistent, and it was 5 or 6 before you finally said, okay, we're not going to do this.
Yeah.
Do you think that that's also what makes you such a great trainer, is the fact that, like, I think you'll probably learn faster to let go of some of those things, but because of that experience, that it taught you a lot more of having to like problem solve and try to be more creative? And I don't know if that's true or not. I'm just curious.
I think I've learned a lot more to work with the dog in front of me, and to kind of figure out what sort of dog it is and what their strengths and weaknesses are, and to go with that, rather than to try and impose my idea of the order in which we're going to train things and how we're going to train things and that sort of thing. So
just recognizing that dog training is not linear, and sometimes you have to get creative about it.
Yeah. And you have to see what the dog brings to the table a lot more as well, which is hard to do when you're new to it all, because I think it takes a lot of experience sometimes, and you have to experience a lot of different dogs to know, what sort of dog is this dog and what's this dog bringing to the table. So it's hard if you're there with your first dog, even your second dog, it's hard to know, what are you judging that dog against, because you don't have much experience of many other dogs. So especially when it comes to gun dog work. So yeah, it takes a bit of experience to be able to do that. But that's, what I'm constantly learning, I think, from the dog.
I'm fascinated by how many different breeds that you've, kind of worked with and worked through. Like that, you must have learned so much from having so many different breed experiences.
Yeah, I mean, they are all gun dogs. So I quite would like to have an Italian Greyhound. That was my
I'm terrified of those.
My random non-gun dog breed. That was that I'd like to have. Yeah, I think. Yeah, I mean, can you imagine? It'd be so. Like, even if they tried to pull on the lead, they probably couldn't, because they're so light and thin. You could probably walk them on one finger.
They look so fragile.
Yes, that's true. That's why we have to wait until we don't have gun dogs, because they would just all their legs would get broken at the moment, I'm afraid. If they lived in our house with the dogs we've got at the moment.
Have some sort of like a space suit they have to wear, like big bubble suit.
A big bubble suit, yes.
Yeah. So I would love to have our listeners be able to understand kind of how you think about your training, because it is so great the way you slice things down. Is there a behavior that you wouldn't mind kind of talking through, maybe one that you're like most passionate about, just like things like heel or recall or engagement? Like, I loved how you said that the person, I've seen it all the time, you're at an agility trial even, and or obedience, and the people are like so spot on, and it's so amazing. And exactly what you said, all of a sudden they're running across a parking lot, cars are swerving, and they're eating a dead animal, and the handler is like chasing after them. And you're like, whoa, that's the same team that I just saw in there and thought was like poetry in motion. Are there any of those behaviors that you could kind of share some of your thoughts on how you teach it?
Well, I'm trying to think about one which might be also useful for people who are not necessarily wanting to do gun dog work. So, I mean, the drop, for example, is really part of, like, in terms of let go of that thing that you're eating, which I don't want you to eat behavior. Call it that. So that behavior is the way to train that behavior, the way to think about that behavior is really part of the clicker retrieve. So, at least in the way that I teach the clicker retrieve. So the thing about the clicker retrieve, and one of the main things you want to address, particularly in the early stages, is this dog's desire to have possession of the thing, or to take ownership of the thing, or to not let you have the thing. And there can be a lot of competition around dog wanting the thing, dog experiencing you as wanting to take the thing away from them. Who's going to have the thing? Dog's going to run away with it, play keep away. This is fun. I'm going to try and eat it. You can't have it. I'm eating it. It's halfway down my throat. Are you basically going to extubate the dog by pulling it out of their throat? Or, all these situations that happen.
Can I throw in one thing, Joe, real fast?
Yes. Yeah.
This happened to me on a cadaver search. So in training. So this is a very, very important skill because I don't want to have to pull dead people out of my dog's mouth. So yes, please go on.
Yeah.
Yeah. So basically all that is about the clicker retrieve. So you would have to start off, the clicker retrieve basically involves teaching the dog to do various things with various objects and items. So you can start with any kind of item, really. You can start with like half a clothes peg. I don't recommend starting with a whole clothes peg because your dog might get their tongue squashed between the clothes peg, but like half a clothes peg or a pen, or just any random thing that the dog can safely pick up. And the idea is that a dog should be able to pick up anything. So there's nothing that they wouldn't want to pick up. So you can eventually, in gun dog training, generalize it to like fur and feather dummies, and it should work on dead things as well. So basically, once you've got the retrieve trained, so you taught the dog to break off at the click, that's the first most important part of the first stage of the clicker retrieve. So the dog is heading towards this thing on the floor, and when they hear the click, they should break off heading towards the thing on the floor and look to you for their treat. So that click has to have the power to tell the dog, okay, stop, behavior finished, here's your reinforcer, and the dog should turn to you to get the reinforcer. So what you're constantly looking at is the dog more interested in earning my reinforcers than in engaging with the item on the floor? And that's the first kind of thing that you have to fix. So if the dog is more interested if the dog wants to ignore the clicker and just blast on ahead and do stuff to the thing on the floor, then you've got to work out, do I need tastier treats? Do I need to put my treats on the dog's nose to get their focus to help them disengage? Because at first, especially, they don't, they're so interested in the thing that it might not be that the reinforcer isn't tasty enough. It might just be the novelty of the thing and the fact they've never done this before. So you might have to just put the treats on their nose. Does that work? And then once you've got their attention, to throw the treat away from the thing on the floor. So they run off and chase the treat away from the item on the floor and eat the treat. And then they come back again, they do another rep and they target it and they hear the click, and the click breaks off their behavior, and they should turn to you. And so basically, when you can do this with all kinds of different items, and you can bring dead things home, put them on the floor outside and do this with those. You can put a lead on the dog if you're afraid the dog is going to ignore the click and you don't particularly want them to actually eat the dead thing because you don't want to be in that situation. Basically, though, if you have a dog which can do the clicker retrieve, then when the dog encounters a dead thing and looks like they're going to interact with it, or even picks it up and is carrying it, you should be able to say drop, and the dog should spit it out, and you can click the drop and then throw them the treat or deliver the treat. Or because basically there's two ways that the retrieve can end. So when I'm in the field with my Weimaraner now, if she finds a dead thing and picks it up, I don't want to be like drop or act anxious about it, because I don't know. One of the things that humans can't know is in the dog's mind, when is a dead thing game and when is a dead thing that you shouldn't touch. Yeah. So if she's going to pick up a dead thing, I don't want to react in a way that she shouldn't be engaging with the item at all, because in her mind, perhaps this is like game. So I don't want to put her off engaging with it. So if she picks it up, there's two ways out of that. I can either take delivery to hand, so I can put my hand down like a flat hand target, so she'll come and deliver it to hand, which I don't necessarily want if it's a decomposing rabbit. Or I can say drop, and that can be the end of the retrieve. So she'll bring it back to me, and I'll say drop, and she'll drop it at my feet, and then she'll get a treat instead. So there's two different outcomes depending on whether I want to touch the thing or not, frankly. So yeah.
I don't want to touch the thing.
I don't want to touch the thing.
I don't want to touch a thing.
But yeah, if you want more of an account on the clicker retrieve, I think I have several podcast episodes that we go through the clicker retrieve in detail. We break it down, like the various different stages. I think I might have done a podcast episode on each stage of the clicker retrieve. Even.
Yeah, there are 7 of them. Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. Not that I listened to them all.
Well, and it's been very interesting for me because with the detection dogs, typically you come back, they spit your toy at you, you pick it up and you throw it. It's not the whole do I need the retrieve to hand? And what's been funny is since I'm like, oh, because I have nothing else to do, let's go ahead and do hunting dog work. I'm now very picky about the fact that no, you get two options. Either I say out, and you spit it out, or you give it to me and I say out and then it's in my hand. And what I'm noticing in the younger dogs, because I've know that going in, we don't train it any other way, so they don't get a chance to make a mistake. And it's easier I'd rather not have to train it than to fix a mistake. And I was reading the click retrieve stuff in your book in the middle of an Iowa winter and thinking, this is what I'm doing with my dogs all winter long. So, yeah.
Yeah, it's a good thing to do because it is something you can do indoors. So the click and retrieve needs to be done indoors all the way through to have it reliable from the dog can go and pick something up a few meters away and bring it to you and deliver to hand. So it can take you many weeks to get to that point. It's a great thing to do inside in the winter.
So I have something in my brain that I can almost hear some people saying, oh my gosh, I would never want to teach my dog a retrieve because I want my dog to go out and indicate the odor and not bring it back. And I think that could really twist some brains a little bit. So what would you say to those people that are like, nope, I would never do the retrieve because you're going to break my nose work. I'm not going to have indications. My dog's just going to try to grab the odor and always bring it back to me.
Well, it's all about, that just reminds me of the people who say, if you want to show your dog, you should never teach your dog to sit because you want your dog to stand in the show ring, So it's always about, the context and, what the dog comes to understand what is expected in different contexts, really. I mean, Moy, my Labrador, I did some scent work stuff with her. Like I did the Fenzi scent work courses with her. And so she will go out and, if it's a scent work exercise, we've got our boxes out or we've got our electric plates out, she'll go and super glue her nose to it and, indicate in that kind of way. And if it's a retrieve item, she'll go and pick it up and bring it back to me. So she knows different items get cue different indications, as it were, like get retrieved or get indicated. So yeah, I think the item itself comes to, and the context and the setting and where the smell, scent for you guys will come to cue the behavior that's expected from the dog. So yeah, but you could try to keep things as separate as possible. So I try not to do maybe in the same training session, in the same room, in the same place, do your scent work and then your indication stuff, do that all smooshed together, but try and separate it out into separate training sessions, maybe move to a different room of the house. Yeah.
Thank you. I just wanted you to say it because I could hear some, I just know in some of the, I know in some of the search and rescue classes I've taught and it just, you always get that, nope, I would never do that because I'm like, oh.
And as you were talking, I'm like, this is all about stimulus control. The dog, which stimulus means which thing, which in the end, the confusion with the dogs or inappropriate behaviors tends to usually be our lack of clarity and consistency versus what the dog can learn.
Yeah.
Oh, and that goes back to earlier when you were talking about expectations too. I mean, we're setting the expectations for our dog. I mean, that was like way back in the very beginning. But yeah, I think it all goes back to that because you were talking about that you would have the behavior and then you would expect it to be a little longer and kind of adding that duration. And I like how you always kind of talk about how you're adding in those layers of like duration and distance and distraction. And so I'm always appreciating how you layer that in so thoughtfully. And you talk about kind of your session structures and plans as well. Would you be willing to kind of mention a little bit about how you think about training when it comes to a session? And I'm thinking specifically about my friend right now, and she's really struggling because she's like, I just don't feel like I have a way to know how to start it and how to stop. And I just don't know what to do. And I'm like, what would you say to a person in that position?
I mean, it depends. Is that a training session in the house or outside the house or?
Yes.
Yes, which?
Whichever you'd like to tackle.
Well, I mean, let's talk about outside the house then, because that's probably what I do most of the time. To be honest, maybe I'm a bit lazy. There's loads. I mean, with puppies, there's loads to do in the house with Gundle training. So there's you can get all the basic behaviors started in the house. And infinite amount of stuff done in the house. And then all your time outside the house, I tend to just use for socialization, because I don't want to encourage the puppy to be excessively focused on me when we're in the socialization period. I want them to be experiencing the world and not staring at me all the time for sausages, because then they're not going to see like the garbage truck going by or the kid on the scooter, or, so I want them to see the world and take all that in and not be trying to train them outdoors. And then once the puppy is outside the socialization period, so like 20 weeks plus, then we would start to go to the field. So, I mean, I guess how to organize a training session depends really on what stage your dog is at, what behaviors you want to train, and how the dog is with environmental distractions, and trying to choose a place that you're going to be able to get some sort of successful training outcome in. But sometimes the training, if you've got a dog which is really distracted, the training can be getting focus. Like, I spent a long time with my GSP who features on the focus and attention course on my website, just trying to get her to pay attention to me. So Ren is almost too much pointery instinct. She's pointeriness. And one of the things that I noticed about these dogs, I've seen it in English pointers as well, is that they're just really they're hyper focused on one thing. And sometimes if you want to get their attention off that thing to ask them to do something else, they just can't suck their attention off that thing, whatever it is that they're staring at in the distance. So we struggled a lot with attention and focus with Ren, and that's how I made the whole online course as a result of that. But yeah, I mean, that could be your whole training session if you've got a dog you're struggling with attention and focus with. With puppies, I like to have one field where I start with one field anyway, where I do what I call doing the rounds. And doing the rounds literally means just walking around and around the same field. And the first time we go around the field, I might not ask the puppy for any behaviors because the field is going to be new and interesting and smelly. So I'll just walk around with the puppy. The second time, I might stop at certain points around the field and practice different behaviors in each point. So then we have this kind of rhythm or pattern of being outside, walking together, and the puppy investigating the environment, and then stop and focus on me. And then we go and investigate the environment when we walk around the field, and stop and focus on me. And we walk and investigate the environment. So basically, I'm trying to weave myself into the puppy's engagement with the environment, which I think is a really crucial part of teaching, especially the breeds that hunt, like the Spaniels and HBRs or versatile dogs. They need to learn to not go AWOL and go hunting crazy and stop paying you any attention. But you can go the other extreme, which is what I did with my first dog, where you end up with a dog which is too focused on you, staring at you all the time, and doesn't want to engage with the environment. So what you're trying to do is create a texture or fabric, which is dog engages with the environment, dog engages with you, dog engages with environment and you, and the dog engages with the environment through you. So you release the dog to the environment, and the dog goes off to enjoy that as an environmental reinforcer. And then you walk on to the next place and then recall the dog to you. That's a behavior in itself. Practice a little, sit, stay, wait, walk around the dog, do some basic training, put a dummy down the floor, get the dog to target the dummy a bit if you're at that stage of the click and retrieve, and then release the dog back to the environment again, and then walk on to the next place. So you're constantly teaching the dog. You interact with the environment, and then you interact with me, and then access to the environment after that is through me and my release, and through working with me, you get released back to the environment. And this is the kind of rhythm of a successful gun dog, I think. So yeah.
Okay.
That doesn't really explain, it doesn't really answer your question about.
No, it absolutely does, because here's what I just heard. Look at your individual dog and see what you need to work on with them. That's how you set up your plan. I mean, that's A+. That's exactly what I think everyone needs to think about.
And I love the visual of the weaving you, the environment, and then you can go experience the environment because I've given you permission to do so, and how that all weaves together was fabulous. So,
and you're creating the expectations through the patterns.
Yes.
So, I mean, thank you. That's exactly what I was asking for.
So what are the topics that you're looking at in your next book?
Well, that's probably one of them. Well, the next book is going to go on to much more about, in terms of the retrieving side of things. It's going to go on to, I think we stopped at memory retrieves, which I don't know if you even have in North America, but that just retrieves where the dog sees the thing fall, you walk away from it, and then you turn around and send the dog for it. So in the UK, they use this as a sort of very first step towards blind retrieves. So in the next book, we're going to go much into, blind retrieves in terms of the send away part of them, and the handling exercises, the three-handed casting, T-drill, and then the lining drills, various different lining drills, W drill, Y drill. So there's look far drill. There's lots of different lining drills we can do. So the lining drills teach the dog that we've got multiple different options out there in terms of retrieves, that you want that specific one in that specific place and not that one right or left of it. So the dog has to be able to take line from your hand quite precisely. So covering all that, and arousal, how to work with arousal, because that seems to be something a lot of people struggle with. And also kind of make the connection between arousal and like managing arousal and gun dog work and what we can get from learning about reactivity, because that's a huge part of dealing with reactivity as well. And so I often think about both arousal and reactivity as sort of providing the dog with a framework which is predictable and expected in some way and helps the dog hold their mind together. So when the dog is kind of losing their mind because they're over aroused or they're overexcited or they're reactive or whatever, we talk about as losing their mind. Is their mind going to pieces? Is their mind ending up on the ceiling, being in bits? And what we need to do is help them hold their mind together and kind of provide them with sort of framework to be able to do that, because they can't do that themselves. So we need to contain their kind of mind that's splintered and gone everywhere. So there's lots of different ways we can do that. And great people have come up with fantastic ideas. So you've got Denise Fenzi and her platform work, where you've got the dog sort of sticking their bum onto the platform, and the platform is a physical place that holds the dog there. And so the dog is going to be able to, because they're holding their body there, they're going to be able to hold their mind there as well and keep their mind together. And then we've got like Leslie McDevitt's pattern games, where we've got predictable things like you do this, you do that, you look over here, you look here, you get a treat, you do, it's very rhythmic, it's very repetitive, it's very expected. And so that helps the dog hold their mind together as well, because we provide the dog with a framework, and then we weave in the thing that the dog is worried about in reactivity, or in gun dog training, the thing that dog is hyper excited about perhaps. So the dog can see the other dog doing a retrieve and then look back at you, or eat a treat out of the bowl, or look over there and see the dog doing the thing, eat a treat out of the bowl. So it's the same kind of stuff basically. And we could go on, but there's lots of sort of things that we can mine from the world of reactivity when it comes to helping gun dogs manage their over-aroused emotions. So I kind of have a chapter on that as well. And then the whole sort of hunting side of things as well, like the whole HBR, encouraging the dog to hunt. This is a bit more, it's a bit harder to write that section as a sort of do this, then do that, then do this, then do that recipe kind of section, because I think it's a bit more of an art form, because there's so many different types of dog and so many different things that the environment and the dog can throw at you at any moment. So it's kind of, that part of the book is going to be written a bit more like, here's a chapter with me waffling about this particular subject, and here's a bit with me waffling about this subject, rather than a sort of recipe of what I'm enjoying writing that bit much more than the sort of the recipe side of things. So that's basically what the book is looking like at the moment.
I'm excited for that chapter. I mean, all of it, but yeah, me too. I love your waffling.
Yeah, I'm excited for the whole thing, and I can't wait to see it. So yay.
Cool.
So Joe, we usually at the end, we kind of ask of each other, what are some things that you just took away that you want to share and kind of just reiterate? And we'll give you a second to think about that, because Robin said she wanted to go first.
I did. I think the thing that was fascinating, and I have used some of the same language of when you were talking about the click retrieve and the drop actually being part of the whole click retrieve, that giving people an alternative way to think about a drop the thing that's out of your mouth and I can click and treat you for that instead of try and tackle you and stuff my hand down your throat, is an absolutely invaluable piece of thing as I think about my puppy, who currently likes to bring me all sorts of things. So we're going to start working on that portion of the out and you can have a cookie. Because I also think it helps clear up for the dog, out or drop or whatever word. I use out. I have a Dutch Shepherd, so we use out. And there's also the fetch is the pick it up and hold it version. And then the out is let go. So it gives you two sides of the same coin. So that's my fun takeaway.
All right. So here's some of mine. I go back to the very beginning when you talked about distractions and called them environmental reinforcements. I really want people to hear that. That's something that we teach a lot, like in our distraction camps, and it's what we teach in Mondio Ring and all the protection sports that I do. I mean, that's it right there. And I heard you talk a lot about genetics, and along with the genetics, I love how you said that even your session structure is looking at what your dog brings. So it's what they need, but also who they are, and that independent, like it's about that animal. So I really appreciate that, and that the animal needs to engage in the environment and the things that they want through us. I think those are all some of the main things that I'm like, yes, preach. Your turn.
Yes.
I'm supposed to give takeaway points from my own.
You are.
Okay. But guys, you've said all the stuff. There's nothing left for me to say now.
I should let you go first then. I'm sorry. I was trying to be nice.
Can my takeaway points be that there's a really good website called forcefreegundog.com?
Yes. That is it right there in the podcast. Hold the line.
And a book.
And a book. Well, and I was just, I'm out. Well, okay. So while we were doing the podcast, I will totally admit I bought the blind retrieves module.
You've completed the first week. No.
Yeah. Well, no, and Stacy on our little chat just said, she's like, I'm buying healing. So
right. Well, and and I'm looking, there's focus and attention and remote stop. And I'm going to go buy the T-drill one, but I have to go because as I was driving and listening to the podcast, I wrote down the coupon code. So I have to go get the coupon code out of my car to get the training T-drill. And so I'm not going to give it. You can't give it because everybody's got to go.
I hope it still works. I hope it's still valid because it was going to expire at some point. I can't remember. I created so many different coupon codes with different expiry dates recently that I can't remember when that expires. But
I'll if it expires, oh well.
Yeah. And I did the remote stop one on when you did the Finzi workshop. I loved that. You did such a great job. Yeah. So I did that one and I loved it. I've been using it and it's been working beautifully. And that was just from the workshop alone. So you're a brilliant teacher.
Cool. Excellent. I'm glad it's helpful. But also there is another token that you can use. Welcome 101, I should say. There you go. That's a little, anyone listening can use Welcome 101. That should give you a discount.
Exclusive for us. No, I'm kidding.
All right. Well, I will just use that one then. So thank you so much. So we're keeping in touch with you. When part 2 comes out, book 2 comes out, we'll have you come on. And if it's going to take too long, we'll have you on again anyway.
Cool. So yeah, no pressure. Only
pressure.
There's pressure because we really want the book.
Yeah, because
it's been really good to be here. So thank you very much for inviting me.
Some of us really need the book. So thank you so much. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. Please, if you have questions about this, we'll make sure that Jo is tagged on all of our socials, and all of her links are going to be in the show notes. And have a great night. Go train.
Canine Detection Collaborative! We appreciate the time you spend with us. If you liked this episode, not only should you follow us so you don't miss the next one, but please also rate and review us in your favorite podcast app. For info on collaborating with us, go to K9DetectionCollaborative.com. That's K9Detectioncollaborative.com, where you can find our socials and pick up our latest monthly freebie. Join us again to talk training in the next episode.